Wake Up and Win: How to Reach Your Goals and Live the Life of Your Dreams by Jermaine Miller is a motivational guide aimed at helping readers overcome personal setbacks, build self-confidence, and achieve their aspirations. Drawing from his own transformative journey, from homelessness to becoming a successful entrepreneur, Miller provides actionable strategies to break free from self-imposed limitations and design a fulfilling life. Introduction. In the introduction of Wake Up and Win, Jermaine Miller sets a powerful and emotionally resonant tone that invites readers to reflect on their current circumstances and take radical ownership of their lives. He opens with a vulnerable account of his own life, recounting the adversity he faced, homelessness, hopelessness, and low self-worth, before he experienced a mindset shift that allowed him to rewrite his story and step into a life of purpose, success, and self-mastery. This personal anecdote is not shared for sympathy, but as a declaration. If he could rise from rock bottom, so can anyone willing to commit to the journey of self-discovery and transformation. Miller argues that the world is full of people asleep in their own lives, alive but not truly living, functioning but not fulfilled, dreaming but not doing, and it's time to wake up to the power each person holds within. He introduces the central idea that most limitations are self-imposed, shaped by doubt, fear, and negative inner dialogue inherited from past failures or external criticisms. The wake-up call, then, is not about sudden external success, but about internal awareness and a conscious decision to shift from passivity to purpose. He emphasizes that winning isn't just about accumulating wealth or recognition, but about becoming the best version of oneself, designing a life of meaning and aligning daily habits with long-term visions. Miller challenges readers to evaluate the stories they've been telling themselves, stories of limitation, unworthiness, or deferred dreams, and to discard those narratives in favor of new ones rooted in confidence, clarity, and courage. He introduces the metaphor of waking up as an act of rebellion against mediocrity, urging individuals to shake off complacency and actively participate in shaping their futures. By addressing the reader directly, he fosters a sense of urgency and personal responsibility, insisting that change begins the moment one decides to no longer be a prisoner of circumstance. He calls on readers to take inventory of their beliefs, choices, and environments, acknowledging that success is not a matter of luck but of intention and persistence. Miller's introduction is filled with motivational energy, laced with phrases designed to stir the reader's spirit and provoke action, not later, but now. He introduces several of the core principles that will be expanded in later chapters, such as discipline, positive mindset, strategic goal setting, and the relentless pursuit of growth. He also debunks common myths about success, such as the idea that it's reserved for a privileged few, insisting that anyone, regardless of background, has the power to achieve greatness when they decide to. The introduction makes it clear that this book is not just a motivational pep talk, but a call to transformation, a practical guide, and a personal manifesto for anyone who feels stuck, unseen, or unfulfilled. In framing his journey as a mirror through which others can see their own potential, Miller creates a powerful emotional connection with the reader, effectively setting the stage for the practical tools and life strategies that follow in subsequent chapters. He warns against the trap of waiting for the right time, the perfect opportunity, or external validation, and instead encourages immediate action, however small. This urgency, coupled with a strong belief in the human capacity to change, forms the emotional and philosophical backbone of the book. The introduction is both a rallying cry and a compassionate hand extended to those who have lost belief in themselves, and it is imbued with a sense of spiritual awakening, where waking up is not just a metaphor but a mission to reclaim one's identity, dreams, and agency. Miller underscores that real success is a daily decision and that waking up is not a one-time event but a continuous process of choosing to rise above excuses and align with a greater vision. Through a combination of inspirational storytelling, tough love, and practical insight, the introduction to Wake Up and Win firmly positions the book as a transformative journey for anyone ready to stop surviving and start thriving. Chapter 1: Overcoming Adversity. Jermaine Miller delivers a deeply motivational and introspective analysis of how adversity, though often painful and seemingly insurmountable, can serve as the foundation for growth, self-realization, and ultimate transformation, provided we choose to confront it with courage, awareness, and resolve. Drawing on his own personal experiences, including episodes of homelessness, despair, and emotional isolation, Miller powerfully illustrates that adversity does not discriminate and is a universal human experience. Yet what separates those who succeed from those who remain stuck is not the absence of adversity but the attitude and action with which it is met. He explains that many people become paralyzed by their problems, seeing them as permanent roadblocks rather than temporary challenges that can be reshaped into stepping stones toward growth. Miller challenges readers to adopt a new perspective, one that reframes hardship as a catalyst for discovering one's inner strength and capacity for resilience. He asserts that every difficult circumstance, from financial hardship to personal betrayal, holds within it the seed of opportunity, but it is only revealed to those who are willing to look beyond the pain and ask the powerful question, "What is this trying to teach me?" By doing so, adversity shifts from being a force that destroys to one that refines. He emphasizes that the mindset we carry into our struggles plays a greater role than the struggle itself. Whether we view adversity as something happening to us or for us will determine how we emerge from it. Miller highlights the danger of adopting a victim mentality, a state where people surrender their power and wait for external rescue or sympathy, which he argues is disempowering and ultimately self-defeating. Instead, he urges readers to take ownership of their responses, to be proactive in the face of difficulty, and to use adversity as a mirror to examine limiting beliefs, self-sabotaging behaviors, and inherited mental patterns that no longer serve them. He reminds us that the most successful individuals across history are not those who avoided pain but those who walked through it, learned from it, and became stronger because of it. Miller introduces the concept of emotional endurance, the ability to hold steady when life gets turbulent, and outlines how this can be developed through deliberate daily habits such as gratitude, visualization, affirmations, and goal setting. He underscores that overcoming adversity is not a single breakthrough moment but a daily decision to keep going, to rise each time we fall, and to trust in our ability to rebuild, even when evidence of success has not yet materialized. One of the key messages of the chapter is that adversity is often the training ground for purpose. The very struggle we are trying to escape may be the exact process we need to prepare us for the next level of our journey. Miller reflects on how his darkest times equipped him with empathy, determination, and clarity, allowing him not only to rebuild his life but to inspire and mentor others. He warns against comparing our pain or progress to others, reminding us that everyone is on a unique path and that our timeline for healing and growth is ours alone. The chapter is filled with actionable insights, such as the importance of surrounding oneself with empowering people, creating mental distance from negativity, and engaging in self-talk that reinforces capability rather than defeat. Miller also explores how we can gain strength by helping others through their adversities, creating a cycle of encouragement that lifts communities rather than just individuals. He acknowledges that some adversity, particularly trauma or deep loss, requires healing over time and that overcoming doesn't mean forgetting or suppressing pain, but rather integrating it into our story in a way that gives it meaning. The chapter reinforces that there is no shortcut through adversity, only the long but worthy path of self-accountability, emotional honesty, and unwavering faith in the future. He speaks directly to the reader's inner self, the part that has felt broken, discouraged, or lost, and reminds them that they are not alone, that the storm they are weathering is shaping them, and that the resilience they are cultivating will one day serve as inspiration to someone else fighting their own battle. He paints adversity not as a curse but as a classroom, a sacred space where life teaches us what books and mentors cannot, how to be unshakable, how to love ourselves in the midst of chaos, and how to develop the kind of character that stands tall when everything else is falling apart. Ultimately, Miller leaves readers with the empowering truth that adversity doesn't define them, how they respond to it does. By the end of Chapter 1, the message is clear. Pain is inevitable, but staying stuck is optional. If we dare to face our challenges, lean into them, and mine them for wisdom, we don't just survive, we evolve. Through powerful storytelling, strategic insights, and heartfelt encouragement, this chapter prepares the reader to not only navigate adversity but to embrace it as an essential part of their awakening and their journey to winning in life. Chapter 2: Building Self-Confidence. Germaine Miller dives deep into the foundational role that self-confidence plays in achieving success and living a fulfilling life, arguing that without a solid belief in oneself, no amount of talent, opportunity, or resources can be fully activated or sustained. He opens by debunking the myth that confidence is something people are simply born with, asserting instead that it is a learned skill, one that must be built deliberately, nurtured through action, and protected from the corrosive effects of self-doubt, fear, and external judgment. Miller connects confidence not just to achievement but to identity, stating that it emerges from a clear understanding of who you are, what you stand for, and what you're capable of becoming. He emphasizes that many people walk through life wearing a mask, hiding behind insecurity shaped by past failures, criticism, or trauma, and they adopt behaviors of avoidance, perfectionism, or inauthenticity that distance them further from their true selves. To build real confidence, he explains, one must first do the inner work of self-acceptance, confronting and healing the root causes of self-doubt while choosing to reframe their narrative through a lens of possibility and self-love. Miller provides actionable techniques for boosting confidence, such as developing positive affirmations, visualizing success, celebrating small wins, and keeping promises to oneself. He warns against the trap of seeking validation from others, explaining that when we outsource our sense of worth, we become emotionally fragile and reactive, living for applause and approval instead of alignment and purpose. Instead, true confidence, he argues, is rooted in internal validation. It grows when we consistently show up for ourselves, keep commitments, and do the hard things even when no one is watching. He introduces the idea that every act of courage, no matter how small, is a deposit into our confidence account, and over time, those deposits accumulate into unshakable belief. Miller urges readers to silence their inner critic, the voice that says they're not good enough, smart enough, or capable enough, by consciously replacing negative self-talk with empowering language that uplifts, energizes, and focuses the mind on progress rather than perfection. He also explores how confidence is built through competence, encouraging readers to invest in their growth by acquiring new skills, gaining knowledge, and embracing challenges as opportunities to stretch beyond comfort zones. According to Miller, confidence thrives when people give themselves permission to fail forward, to see mistakes not as reflections of worthlessness but as essential steps in the learning process. He introduces examples of highly successful individuals who started from humble beginnings but built their confidence through consistency, resilience, and a refusal to be defined by setbacks. Furthermore, he identifies the environment as a crucial factor in confidence building, advising readers to curate their surroundings by limiting exposure to toxic people, negative media, and disempowering conversations, and instead, to immerse themselves in uplifting communities that reinforce belief and ambition. He talks about the importance of physical posture and presence, how standing tall, maintaining eye contact, and dressing with intention can influence both how others perceive us and how we perceive ourselves. Miller highlights the connection between confidence and vision, noting that people with a strong sense of purpose are more likely to act boldly because they are anchored by a mission greater than their fears. In helping readers build confidence, he also stresses the necessity of forgiveness, particularly forgiving oneself for past missteps and choosing to stop dragging guilt, shame, or regret into the present moment. He believes that we cannot step confidently into our future if we are chained to the pain of our past. Miller's approach is both compassionate and challenging. He understands the pain of feeling unworthy but refuses to let readers stay there, insisting that the life they desire begins with a decision to believe they are worthy of it. He emphasizes that confidence is contagious. When we model belief in ourselves, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same, creating a ripple effect that can transform families, teams, and entire communities. The chapter closes with a powerful reminder that confidence isn't about being the loudest in the room or having all the answers. It's about trusting that you belong, that your voice matters, and that you can figure things out as you go. Miller reinforces the idea that building self-confidence is a daily practice, a mental workout that requires repetition, intentionality, and the courage to show up authentically. Whether you're starting a business, rebuilding after loss, pursuing a dream, or simply trying to live more freely and fully, confidence is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Through storytelling, practical tools, and heartfelt encouragement, this chapter equips readers with the mindset and strategies to believe in themselves again, or perhaps for the very first time, and to step forward with boldness, clarity, and conviction on their journey to waking up and winning in life. Chapter 3: Taking Action. Germaine Miller delivers a bold and transformative message centered around one of the most critical ingredients of success: the decision to act. He opens the chapter by confronting a hard truth, that most people do not lack dreams, ambition, or even talent. What they lack is consistent, decisive action in pursuit of those dreams. He emphasizes that knowledge without execution is meaningless and that waiting for the perfect time, the right opportunity, or the ideal conditions, is often just fear wearing the mask of logic. Miller stresses that real progress happens not when circumstances align perfectly, but when individuals choose to move forward despite uncertainty, discomfort, or incomplete readiness. He draws a sharp line between intention and execution, pointing out that thinking, planning, and talking about goals are not the same as doing the work to achieve them. He encourages readers to develop a bias toward action, an internal drive that compels them to respond quickly and boldly when inspiration strikes or opportunity knocks, even if the steps are small. By acting, we gain clarity, learn faster, and build momentum, whereas inaction leads to stagnation, overthinking, and erosion of self-trust. Miller outlines how procrastination is often rooted in fear fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, and that one of the most effective ways to defeat fear is by taking immediate and repeated action. He offers a compelling strategy: shrink the size of the step until it feels manageable, then take it immediately. This approach removes the mental resistance often associated with big goals and replaces it with a sense of progress and empowerment. The chapter challenges readers to move beyond passive consumption of motivational content and into deliberate execution, reminding them that reading books, watching seminars, or writing journal entries, while helpful, are ultimately hollow if they do not result in real-world behavior change. Miller introduces the concept of messy action, the idea that it's okay for the first attempt to be imperfect because mastery is born through repetition, adjustment, and perseverance. He relates personal stories and client experiences that showcase how seemingly insignificant actions, taken consistently over time, can lead to profound transformations. He draws inspiration from his own life, where taking small steps each day, even while uncertain or afraid, eventually led to a complete reinvention of his circumstances. He warns against the trap of analysis paralysis, where overthinking kills progress and perfectionism becomes an excuse for delay, arguing that it's more important to be moving in the right direction imperfectly than to remain motionless in pursuit of perfection. Miller provides tactical advice such as setting deadlines, scheduling focused work blocks, eliminating distractions, and holding oneself accountable to daily progress goals. He talks about the importance of environment and habits, explaining that people are products of what they repeatedly do, and therefore to change one's life, one must change one's daily behaviors. He suggests replacing passive habits, such as scrolling through social media or binge-watching television, with proactive ones like writing, creating, networking, or training, anything that moves you closer to your desired outcome. Another key theme is the power of compound action, the understanding that small steps, when repeated consistently over time, yield results far beyond what we can initially imagine. Miller highlights how many people give up too soon because they fail to recognize that meaningful results often lag meaningful effort, and therefore patience and trust in the process are essential. He also addresses the psychological transformation that occurs when one becomes a person of action, the confidence boost, the sense of integrity, and the emotional alignment that come from living in congruence with one's goals and values. Action, he asserts, is the antidote to doubt because each completed task becomes evidence of our capability and builds the internal momentum needed to take on bigger challenges. He encourages readers to use action as a form of self-respect, a declaration to the world and to oneself that their dreams matter enough to pursue, regardless of fear or external judgment. Miller makes it clear that while vision is vital, it is the daily grind, the showing up, the pushing through resistance, the doing when motivation is absent, that separates wishful thinkers from real achievers. He warns that waiting can quickly become a habit, and days of inaction stack into months and years of unrealized potential. Therefore, he pleads with readers to start now, start where they are, and start with what they have. He reframes failure as feedback, a necessary part of the journey, and encourages readers to embrace the learning curve that action inevitably brings. He reminds us that clarity comes through motion. We discover what works and what doesn't only by engaging with life, not by sitting on the sidelines. The chapter ends with an empowering call to commitment, not just to act once, but to adopt action as a way of being, to make execution a personal standard, and to create a rhythm of progress that eventually leads to transformation. Miller's message is clear and urgent. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is filled not with more information or planning, but with deliberate, consistent, courageous action. Through a mix of motivational insight, real-life examples, and practical strategies, this chapter ignites the reader's inner fire to stop waiting, stop second-guessing, and finally take the steps that bring their vision to life. Chapter 4. Managing Inner Dialogue. Germaine Miller delves into one of the most powerful yet overlooked forces shaping our lives: our internal conversation, the constant, often subconscious stream of thoughts that determines our beliefs, emotions, behaviors, and ultimately our outcomes. He begins by illustrating how every decision we make, every risk we avoid or embrace, every opportunity we pursue or sabotage, is influenced not by external reality alone but by how we interpret it through the lens of our internal narrative. Miller explains that many people live under the control of a negative inner voice, a critical, fearful, or doubtful dialogue that was often formed in childhood or shaped by repeated failures, rejection, trauma, or societal programming, and this voice continuously tells them that they are not enough, not ready, or not worthy. He asserts that to truly win in life, individuals must first become conscious of this internal chatter, recognize how often it runs on autopilot, and begin the disciplined work of challenging, interrupting, and rewriting that dialogue. According to Miller, our inner dialogue is either a prison or a platform. It either reinforces limitation or unlocks potential, and the difference comes down to intention and self-awareness. He encourages readers to become the gatekeepers of their minds, choosing deliberately what thoughts to entertain and what to reject, because thoughts repeated over time become beliefs, and beliefs become behavior. He shares that before he began his personal transformation, his inner dialogue was filled with self-blame, hopelessness, and resignation, and that changing this dialogue was the foundation for changing his life. He introduces the concept of mental hygiene, comparing our thoughts to the mental equivalent of a diet, arguing that just as we wouldn't feed our bodies garbage every day and expect to feel healthy, we cannot feed our minds self-defeating messages and expect to perform with confidence or clarity. Miller offers practical strategies for managing inner dialogue, including the use of daily affirmations, journaling, and thought audits. Simple practices that involve identifying negative thought patterns, tracing their origins, and replacing them with empowering alternatives. He stresses that this is not a one-time fix but a daily discipline, a continual process of renewing the mind and training it to align with truth, possibility, and purpose. One of the most powerful ideas he presents is that thoughts are not facts. They are suggestions, and we have the power to accept or reject them. He explains how fear often disguises itself as logic within our internal dialogue, convincing us to play small or delay progress under the illusion of caution, when it's just the mind trying to avoid discomfort or risk. Miller encourages readers to speak to themselves as they would to someone they love, with encouragement, belief, and compassion, rather than defaulting to criticism or self-sabotage. He underscores how inner dialogue directly impacts energy, mood, and momentum. When our self-talk is negative, we feel drained, uncertain, and hesitant. When it is positive and intentional, we feel energized, focused, and courageous. He explores how many people unconsciously replay old scripts. Phrases like, "I always mess things up," "I'm not good with money," or "no one takes me seriously," and how these internalized identities must be rewritten if real change is to occur. Miller emphasizes the power of language, urging readers to pay attention not just to what they say to others, but especially what they whisper to themselves in moments of stress, failure, or uncertainty. He introduces the practice of mental scripting, which involves consciously writing and rehearsing new internal stories that align with one's goals and values. Affirmations like, "I am worthy of success," "I handle challenges with grace," or "I am becoming stronger every day." These scripts, when practiced repeatedly, begin to override the old programming and establish a new mental foundation for growth. Miller also highlights the connection between inner dialogue and external action, noting that people often don't pursue opportunities not because they lack ability but because their internal story convinces them it's not worth trying. He points out that what we tell ourselves in moments of failure or rejection is especially important. Either we reinforce the pain and withdraw further into fear, or we frame the experience as part of a bigger lesson and recommit to our vision. Throughout the chapter, Miller reminds readers that everyone struggles with negative self-talk at times, but the difference between those who win and those who don't is not that one group never hears the voice of doubt. It's that winners choose not to obey it. He shares stories of clients and public figures who changed their lives dramatically by first changing the way they thought and spoke to themselves. He also challenges readers to examine whose voice their inner dialogue resembles. Often the inner critic is not their true self, but the echoed voice of a parent, teacher, peer, or society that once instilled fear or limitation. Recognizing this allows individuals to reclaim ownership of their mental landscape and start writing their own story. Miller concludes the chapter by reinforcing that managing inner dialogue is a lifelong journey but one worth mastering, because it is the root from which every other change grows. Whether someone wants to improve their relationships, finances, health, or purpose, it all begins with mastering the voice within. He empowers readers with the truth that they are not their past, not their pain, and not their fear. They are the authors of their future, and the story begins with the words they choose to speak to themselves every single day. With passion, clarity, and actionable wisdom, this chapter equips readers with the tools and mindset necessary to silence their inner critic, cultivate inner strength, and become their own greatest ally on the path to waking up and winning. Chapter 5. Designing a Purposeful Life. Germaine Miller brings the reader to the heart of personal transformation by exploring what it truly means to live with purpose and intention, urging that a life without purpose, no matter how comfortable or successful it may seem, is ultimately unfulfilling and directionless. He opens by challenging the common misconception that purpose is something mystical or reserved for a chosen few, arguing instead that every individual has a unique reason for being, and that discovering and living out that reason is both a responsibility and a privilege. Miller emphasizes that a purposeful life is not stumbled upon by accident but is designed deliberately, crafted through clarity, intention, and conscious daily choices. He guides the reader through the process of self-inquiry, asking powerful questions such as, what do you truly value? What impact do you want to have? And what legacy do you want to leave behind? Stressing that answering these questions honestly is the foundation for designing a life that matters. He explains that many people drift through life reacting to circumstances, chasing short-term goals, or conforming to societal expectations, rather than aligning their actions with a deeper personal mission. To shift from drifting to designing, Miller introduces the concept of life by design versus life by default, urging readers to become architects of their future rather than victims of their past. He stresses the importance of vision, having a vivid mental picture of the life you want to live and the person you want to become, and how this vision serves as a compass that guides your decisions, fuels your discipline, and sustains you through adversity. He encourages readers to write down their vision, create a life mission statement, and revisit it regularly to remain anchored in their why. Miller also connects purpose to service, suggesting that the most meaningful lives are not just centered on personal success but are driven by a desire to serve others, solve problems, and contribute to the greater good. He asserts that purpose doesn't always come with a title, platform, or paycheck. It shows up in how you treat people, how you use your gifts, and how you show up in everyday life. He breaks down practical ways to design a purposeful life, such as identifying your core values, aligning your career with your passion and strengths, and building habits that reflect your long-term goals rather than temporary emotions. Miller explains that living on purpose often requires saying no to distractions, comfort zones, and misaligned relationships to protect what matters most. He highlights how purpose gives pain meaning. When you know why you're doing something, you can endure almost anyhow, and how many people find their life mission not in moments of ease, but through overcoming hardship, loss, or frustration that revealed what truly matters to them. He reflects on his own journey, recounting how once he shifted from merely surviving to intentionally serving, his life took on greater depth, direction, and joy. He warns against the trap of comparison, explaining that purpose is not about competing with others but about being fully aligned with your own path, and that fulfillment comes not from impressing the world but from living a life that resonates with your soul. Miller emphasizes the connection between purpose and energy, stating that when you live in alignment with your calling, you tap into a source of natural motivation that no external reward can match. He also encourages readers to stop waiting for permission or perfection before pursuing their purpose, affirming that you don't need to have it all figured out, you just need to start where you are, with what you have, and let clarity unfold through action. He discusses how purpose evolves over time and that it's okay for your vision to grow and change as you do. What matters is that you remain intentional and honest with yourself along the way. Miller touches on goal setting as a tool for purpose-driven living, explaining that goals become more powerful when they are rooted in purpose, because they are no longer just achievements but expressions of your deeper mission. He advises readers to set both short-term and long-term goals that reflect who they want to become, not just what they want to have. He also introduces the idea of purpose as a filter, a tool for decision-making that helps you stay aligned with what truly matters instead of being pulled in every direction by urgency or opinion. Through heartfelt stories, real-life examples, and powerful coaching insights, Miller empowers readers to take ownership of their time, talents, and choices, and to stop waiting for the right moment, to live fully and start building the life they are called to lead now. He reminds readers that purpose isn't passive. It requires courage, faith, and a willingness to take imperfect steps in the direction of your calling, even when the path is unclear or the results are not immediate. He reinforces the idea that designing a purposeful life isn't about grand gestures or flawless execution. It's about small, consistent, intentional actions that, over time, shape a life of meaning, impact, and joy. As the chapter closes, Miller leaves readers with a stirring message. Your life is your greatest project, your purpose is your greatest gift, and now is the time to stop existing and start living with direction, devotion, and destiny. With clarity, compassion, and conviction, he urges us not just to wake up, but to wake up on purpose, knowing that the world needs what only we can bring when we commit to living with passion, principles, and purpose. Conclusion. Of Wake Up and Win, Jermaine Miller brings together the powerful lessons shared throughout the book into a final, urgent call for personal transformation, responsibility, and conscious living. He reinforces the central message that success, happiness, and fulfillment are not reserved for the lucky or the privileged but are available to anyone who dares to wake up, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and take ownership of their life. Miller emphasizes that winning is not about never failing or having a perfect life, but about becoming someone who consistently rises, grows, and shows up with intention regardless of circumstances. The journey toward greatness, he explains, begins within. It's about mastering your mindset, managing your inner dialogue, taking bold and consistent action, and designing your life with purpose every single day. The real victory is not found in external achievements alone, but in becoming the kind of person who chooses faith over fear, progress over perfection, and purpose over passivity. He reminds readers that adversity is part of the process, that pain is often the birthplace of power, and that obstacles are not signs to quit but invitations to evolve. Throughout the conclusion, Miller reiterates that time is the most asset we have, and the tragedy is not that life is short, but that too many people wait too long to start living fully. He urges readers not to delay their dreams, not to wait until the conditions are just right, but to act now, with what they have where they are, because clarity and confidence are built through courageous movement, not idle contemplation. Every day presents a choice: to drift or to design, to surrender to fear or to rise with conviction, to survive or to lead. The power, he argues, has always been within us. We just need to awaken it. Miller emphasizes that you don't have to be perfect to make progress. You just must be willing, intentional, and committed to showing up consistently for yourself and your vision. He shares that transformation is a process, often messy and uncomfortable, but deeply rewarding for those who persevere. He encourages readers to reflect on their own journey, not just what they want to do but who they want to become, and to align every thought, habit, and relationship with that identity. Miller also addresses the importance of gratitude, reminding readers that recognizing what's good in life now fuels the energy to pursue what's next. A purposeful life, he explains, is built moment by moment, decision by decision, and it's never too late to rewrite your story, rebuild your confidence, or reclaim your dream. He calls on readers to stop underestimating their influence and to realize that someone is waiting for their voice, their gift, their leadership, and that stepping into your purpose is not just a personal breakthrough, but a way of giving back to the world. The conclusion is both reflective and empowering, inviting readers to look inward with honesty and outward with vision, to rise above excuses and stories of limitation, and to take radical responsibility for how they think, act, and lead their lives. Miller's voice is one of both compassion and accountability. He deeply believes in the potential of each person, but he refuses to let them hide behind fear, apathy, or procrastination. He makes it clear that the life you want will not be handed to you. You must claim it with courage, persistence, and faith. He reminds us that transformation doesn't require a massive leap, but a decision to show up differently, to think higher, to act braver, to speak life into your future instead of replaying the past. As the book closes, Miller leaves the reader with one powerful truth: waking up to win is a daily commitment, not a one-time event. It means rising above excuses every morning, confronting fear with faith, and deciding again and again to live fully, love deeply, and lead boldly. He challenges readers to become the version of themselves they once dreamed of being, not tomorrow, not someday, but now, and to build a legacy that reflects their values, their resilience, and their purpose. Ultimately, Miller doesn't just want you to feel inspired. He wants you to act. He wants you to implement what you've learned, to turn the insights from these pages into real-world results, lasting change, and undeniable growth. The final message is clear and powerful. You are more powerful than your past, stronger than your excuses, and closer to your breakthrough than you realize. Wake up. Take the lead. Write your own story. Win, not just in your career or your finances, but in how you live, love, grow, and give. Because when you wake up with intention, take responsibility for your future, and live with purpose, you don't just change your own life, you inspire others to do the same. That, Miller affirms, is what it truly means to wake up and win.